Well, it's I really again want to point y'all to Right Now Media to follow through this. This is actually an old series, and it came out several years ago. I wasn't aware of it. I think I'd heard about it when I talked to Rob. Y'all remember he was out sick for a couple of weeks. He actually read the book, Not a Fan, and really liked it. And then Casey and I came across it as we do our Bible study devotional time. We do it through Right Now Media, and so it's easy that way because if we can't physically be together, we can watch the same lesson, and then when we get together, we can talk about it. And so we went through this Not a Fan series, and it just really kind of spoke to my heart that we have so many people that just don't really understand what it means to really be a follower of Jesus and what it means to understand that followers left Jesus. I want you to understand that. There were people that were following Jesus that left. Our church would be about 3,500 people right now if the people that had come and stayed 6 months or longer were still here. And some of y'all old-timers that have been here for a while, you can name a lot of people that are asleep in bed right now. They don't go to church anywhere. They don't have a growing walk with Jesus Christ. That's on them. I'm just saying, it's tough when you understand that there is a difference between being a fan and being a follower. And so, we're not going to dig into a deep, long passage. There's one verse we're going to look at for 6 weeks. You reckon we'll learn it after 6 weeks? I hope so. It's Luke 23. Luke chapter 9, verse 23. If you have your bulletin, you probably have the outline right there available for you. Luke chapter 9, verse 23. Then he said to them all, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me." There comes a time when you have to make a decision in life. Am I going to be a professional golfer, or am I just going to chase this thing around the rest of my life? Am I going to get on the Bass Pro Tournament Tour, or am I just going to fish locally at the lake? Am I going to be serious about my gun collection, or am I just going to shoot at anything that moves, right? Because here's the deal. All of us in life, even you, that was a lot of men's stuff, wasn't it? Now, okay, am I going to be serious about cross-stitch, or am I not? That's the best thing I could come up with, okay? I'm sorry, ladies. Here's the thing. All of us make a decision in life. Either something is going to be something that we kind of enjoy doing, or we're all in. It's not like, and this is what has been difficult for me. I've been on this side of the pew. We don't have pews here. For so long, I can't imagine coming to church occasionally. That doesn't resonate with me. Why waste the time occasionally? I mean, you might miss the biggest deal of your life if you showed up that one Sunday. To me, it's like there is not a choice. It is who I am. It is a part of my DNA. And I know y'all are saying, yeah, Greg, you also get paid to be here on Sundays. That's true. I almost said if I didn't get paid, I'd be here, but some of y'all would take that way too far, all right? But the truth of the matter is, I love Jesus. I couldn't imagine. When I'm on vacation and I'm gone from here and it's a Sunday, I try to find a church to go to. Why? Because I need somebody to make me feel the way I make y'all feel sometimes. Amen? So I want to be around other believers. So the question that is before us, are we a fan? Are we a follower? Am I trying this out, or am I investing in it? Relationships are the same way. A decision has to be made. We have one other small little clip, and we're not watching a movie on Sunday mornings. You're just going to get these little clips, and then you're going to get to hear me preach. So, Rob, if you're ready for that next clip.
DTR. Some of you will recognize what those letters stand for. If you're not sure, let me help you out. If you are a young man in a relationship with a young woman, then chances are these letters are enough to strike fear into your heart. You may run away from, postpone, you may dread the DTR talk. Some young men will even terminate a relationship if they feel like the DTR talk is imminent. It is that official talk that takes place in every romantic relationship. Do you know what it stands for, DTR? Define the relationship. You sit down and you decide where things are going. Have things moved from casual to committed? I remember this date I went on in high school. On the very first date, the girl tried to have the DTR talk with me. First date, DTR. I got out of there PDQ. I just ran away.
When we came to this, when I saw this, I thought, wow, that's exactly what Casey and I did in our first phone conversation. Okay, so we meet, we get together, and as we're getting to know each other, I was like, all right, right up front, I don't have time to waste, okay? So you need to know a couple of things. I'm a divorced pastor, I'm a preacher, and I got a special needs kid. And if you're not all into that, then we can't be together. She said, all right, are you sitting down? I was like, oh boy. I was like, I thought I could top that. She said, I'm a recovered meth addict. I forget at that, how many years clean at that time, babe? 3 years clean. I mean, I don't know who took the bigger risk. I think now she knows after being here, it was her, not me. We all get to that place in life in any kind of relationship, even with friendships, where it's almost like, okay, am I going to spend more time with this person? And we do it even with friends, like I said. There's people that we really like to be around. And then there's other people that we tolerate. And then there's other people, if we never saw them again, we couldn't care less. That's just the reality. Is that true? Okay, well, see, at this moment of DTR, define the relationship, that's really where this sermon series is all about. I'm really wanting us together to define the relationship that we have with Jesus. Because, see, a lot of us, we're just comfortable with Jesus. And now, oh, wow, I get to take another giant step of faith. I can go to Montana for a week and really serve the Lord and give him Jesus. I'm going to feel so much better about myself. It's not about us. It's about Jesus. There's so much that we could do every day. Do you know the impact? I cannot wait. And I don't say this with pride. I can't wait for Jesus to whisper in my ear, Greg, them your invited cards, that was my idea, but it sure did work, didn't it? I have other pastors asking about those you're invited cards now because it's so doggone easy to just hand somebody a card that says, you're invited to my church. Real quick, we haven't done this in a long time. This wasn't a part of the sermon. I want to name off the communities that are represented here today. Okay? So I'm going to try to start over in this area and see what I recognize. Clifton, Meridian, Spiegelville, Valley Mills, China Spring, Coyote. Y'all a Clifton or a Gap address? Wendy? Gap? Y'all are Gappers? All right. How many was it? Somebody's got to keep track for me. Hewitt, Moshe. Good gravy. Y'all get to know each other right here in this group right here. I think most of this group is related anyways over here. How about in this group? Any communities that weren't named? And I'm sure there'll be a couple. West? Bosqueville? Donnie, where in the world you come from? You're in the middle of nowhere, aren't you? Axtell. Where else? Anybody new out here in this area? Crawford? Hadn't even mentioned Crawford. All right. Bring it on. Where are you people from? Lorena? Robinson? Waco? McGregor? Woodway? I'm moving on. Where Springs? Cedar Springs. Rosebud and Mart. And you just thought you had to get out of bed early this morning in Crawford, Texas. Where about in this group? Robinson? Cold Springs? Where else? Gatesville. Waco. Eddy? All right. Hewitt? Moody? Come on, where else? Elmont. Where else? Lacey Lakeview. We have a winner. All right, where else? Brock? Ross. Well, Cuero, I thought maybe somebody drove in from Brock. You never know. Where else? Anywhere else? So I want you to realize the impact that this ministry can have so vastly by your invited card. You don't even have to open your mouth. That was 30 different communities represented in this one service. So I want you to understand the calling that this ministry has, that we have together with what God has done in our lives. We're responsible to tell a lost world that there is hope and none other than Jesus Christ. And the way that we do that is that we aren't ashamed of who He is in our life. So I want us to look at this sermon series, and we are going to focus on this one verse, and it really kind of blows my mind. And I promise you that there have been days in my life that I've wanted to tell Jesus to stick it. I can't do it anymore. I can't handle the pressure. I can't do what you want me to do. I can't believe that my life ended up in the wreck that it ended up in. I can't believe that you've called me to raise this special needs child that's almost 20 years old. Lord, when's that going to change? And Jesus still whispers, Greg, shut up. It's not about you. Just keep doing what I called you to do. Every one of us have days where we just want to scream and give up. And on those days, whether it's in the hospital, the nursing home, hospice, at work, 2 o'clock in the morning, if we will just cry out to Jesus and say, Jesus, I will not stop following you, even though I can't see the way. I'm not a fan. I'm a follower. 3 questions. Why are you here? Jesus often, if you look at John chapter 6, and here's your homework assignment. If you're not going to do any other stuff, I will give you some homework assignment, all right? So I'm going to ask you this week to read John, the Gospel of John chapter 6. It's a long book of the Bible. There's 66 verses. And I'm going to give you a hint. The last verse is very important, all right? But don't go just, how many of y'all are cheaters? You read the end of the book before you know. Now don't go read verse 66 first. Start at verse 1, John chapter 6, and read that whole chapter this week, because I think it's very important. But Jesus always, when there were big crowds, He would always draw a line in the sand. You know what Jesus would say? Life is choices. Choose. Are you going to follow me? Or are you going to turn and go away like everybody else? He even had to come to His disciples and say, are you going to keep following me, or are you going to walk away as well? You know what? Man, isn't worship here awesome? I mean, as soon as y'all can figure out how to put your hands together, you're going to be blown away, right? But because here's the thing. God is doing some incredible stuff through the ministry on Sunday mornings here. But if you're coming for the show, you will quickly be one, a couple of months, 6 months, or a year from now that'll be in bed on Sunday morning. Because we can't put on a show big enough and bad enough and great enough to impress you to where you'll get more serious about your walk with Jesus. That's up to you to do. This is an expression of what God's called us in leading others to worship. But it's not a show. This is what God has placed in our heart. This is our worship as we join together. So as we look at this question, why are you here? In verse 66, I'm going to give it away. From this time, many of his disciples turned back and no longer followed him. I can't imagine that. I can't imagine seeing Jesus feed 5,000 with what? What did he feed 5,000 with? Some bread and some fish. Very little bread and very little fish. And what did they do at the end of it? They had leftovers. They must not have been Baptist. Here's the thing. There was food left. Can you imagine seeing Jesus walk on the water? Can you imagine seeing Jesus heal somebody from leprosy and decide, I think I'll just sleep in. It's Sunday morning. I don't feel like going. I can't imagine that. And I one of the things that's been a burden on my heart is, Greg, you've been on the other side for too long. You don't get the struggles that other people go through. And I'm like, what's the struggle? What's the struggle? When you make up your mind, you stick to it. When there's bumps in the road, you ask for people to help you. Don't give up. But Jesus turned to his disciples and said, are you going to leave me also? Jesus knew that many people were following him for the sideshow, for the miracles. That's all. They wanted to see the next great thing Jesus would do. They weren't following him for a personal relationship. And that's what we're called to do. For Jesus, it's about a deep relationship with you. Deeper than any relationship that you've ever had on earth. Here's the second question. Are you all in? Now, I preached that book here. How long ago was that? Anybody remember? I don't keep track of stuff like that. Y'all remember me preaching through that book, All In? Oh, High Point Cowboy Church West, that's their mantra. All in, all out for Jesus, I think is what their logo thing is. So are you all in? What's that mean to be all in? All in. It means you don't quit just because the sun goes down. Ask a farmer or rancher when it's time to go home. When the job is done. You don't quit till the job's done. So when's the job done for us as believers? When the Lord calls us home. Look, it says being a follower of Jesus requires complete commitment. Whatever it takes, absolute loyalty, completely committed. How many of y'all have ever been in a committed relationship? Well, no wonder this world's so messed up. We got 12 of you been in a committed relationship, and some of y'all been married for 40 years. You were afraid to raise your hand. You're still not sure they're committed to you. Here's the thing. We've all been so burned by somebody that says they're committed to us, by an organization, by a ministry, by a person, by a friend, that now we're afraid to say the word commitment. We're afraid to make a commitment. We're afraid to sign anything and put our name on it. We're looking for the loopholes. Well, if it doesn't work out, I can do something different. There's only one option, and that option is Jesus Christ. There's no back out. There's no do-over. There's no, well, maybe I can do something different. Maybe if I live a good enough life. How many of y'all are sitting next to somebody that's led a good enough life? None of us are. There's only one option, and that's Jesus Christ. There's only one person to follow, and that's Jesus Christ. Don't you dare follow me. How many of y'all been here more than 5 years? How many of y'all know, do not follow Brother Greg? Right? I'm human. I am human. Don't you dare follow, don't you even follow Billy Graham. Listen to him. He's a man of God. I trust him. There are a lot of other good pastors out there, but they ain't Jesus. And the only way to walk with Jesus is to spend time in his word. When you decide to follow Jesus, you've got to go all in. You've got to do it. You've got to quit making excuses for not getting involved in barn fellowship. You've got to do it. You're going to be held accountable when you get to heaven, I bet. Did you ever hear the word barn fellowship? I never heard it. Oh, yes, you did. That crazy preacher every Sunday. Quiet time barn fellowship. It works. That's all I can tell you. It works. And if what you're doing is working, really ask yourself, between you and the Lord, Are you right where you need to be with Jesus Christ? Here's the third question. Have you made it your own? See, being a selective follower means that you kind of choose what you like. Like if it were me, this band could do Crowder and Third Day for every song. But look at y'all, all of a sudden they break out a hymn song and y'all want to start singing. Why? Because that's what you know, right? That's what you're comfortable with. See, we get with and do what we're comfortable with. Jesus always makes you uncomfortable. You will always be uncomfortable following Jesus. Why? Get you out of your comfort zone. Jesus is always nudging you. Take another step of faith. You can do it. I'm right here with you. What did he say to Peter? Get on out that boat, brother. What did Peter do? He just stepped on out, didn't he? And you know for the first 10 seconds it was all good, wasn't it? Why? Because he had his eyes on Jesus. When did he begin to sink? When does your life start going south? As soon as I go through them glass doors, Brother Greg, it just gets crazy. That's why you need Jesus. Now don't raise your hand on this because I don't want to have a lot of counseling to do this. But how many of y'all, some of the people in your family just drive you crazy? I'm going to have a busy week, I can tell. Have you been able to change those people yet? That's all you can do is pray for them. I promise you, they're praying for you. See, here's the thing. Defining the relationship means that I'm always going to put Jesus first. That no matter what problems come my way, I'm going to take them to Jesus before I take them to social media. I'm going to take it to Jesus before I take it to other believers. Because other believers are what? They're sinners. They're human. They might give you the wrong direction. Jesus will never lead you the wrong way. Never. Now, he may not tell you the direction to go in the first 5 minutes. And see, that's where we get in trouble. We don't wait on the Lord. Have you made it your own coming to church to appease someone else? I'm going to tell you a funny story. Remember, y'all are in Cowboy church. I was pastoring my first church, Rochelle, Texas. It was really kind of like a cowboy church. A lot of cowboys there. I worked at an auction barn. I thought I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. And we were young couples, and we were meeting other young couples. And there's this old boy that I've been trying to get to church, and his wife and kids were coming. And I said, I'm going to change the name. Why can't we get Johnny to come to church? He said, because he wants to play games. And I was like, yeah, okay, well, what kind of games? Well, he wants some Sunday loving if he's going to come to church. I was like, okay, I get it. I understand what you're saying. So if he comes to church, then y'all get to spend some alone time in the bedroom. Yep, that's why he wants to come to church. I said, well, I've never quite heard that excuse for going to church. The next Sunday, he was there. So I asked her, I said, what changed? She said, well, I told him that he needed to come to church because he loved the Lord, not because he wanted to spend time with me. And he didn't speak to me for 3 days. I said, what was that time like? Best 3 days of my marriage. So she said he was pretty upset. And I said, well, I don't want you coming to church because you think you're going to get something out of it other than a deeper walk with the Lord. Funny thing is, we laugh about it now and we laughed about it years later, but he became a very committed believer and follower of Jesus Christ, to the point that he ended up leading a Bible study there at that small church, and lost contact with him now. I don't know what's going on with him, but I always laughed about that. You know, guys can get out around the pickup truck and kind of elbow each other and joke a little bit. And I said, man, that's number one right there. I've never heard of anybody trying to, make somebody happy about going to church and they're going to use something on them. But I know we have people here who do the same thing. All right, I'll go to that Cowboy church if you just get off my back. never, ever try to pressure somebody to go to church. It's not worth your misery. Not worth our misery. Here's the thing. If your faith isn't your own, you begin to create a faith. If you're coming to church because your wife wants you to come to church, guys, you're coming to church for the wrong reason. You need to come to church because you know that you're lost and you need a Savior, and that Savior is Jesus Christ. And if you're hoping it's going to improve things at home, the only thing it's going to improve is your time with Him. And it's going to reshape you and remold you, and then you're going to be the kind of husband and father that she wants to be connected to. You're going to be the kind of dad that the kids can look up to. But you've got to make it your own. See, some of you are never going to raise your hands in worship. You've already broken over the age barrier where that's inappropriate. Some of you will always sit when everybody else is standing. That's just who you are. But that doesn't have anything to do with your God and who Jesus is to you. So when others stand, let them stand. When others sit, let them sit. When others are expressive, let them express who God is to them. Because they are making it their own. Luke 14:26. Luke chapter 14. No, I'm sorry, it's not 26, it's 23. Then the master told his servant, go out onto the roads and the country lanes and make them come in so that my house will be full. The only way that they can do that is knowing why the master has told them to go out. You know, I've joked with y'all about the you're invited cards. And the people that have done well with the you're invited cards are the ones that have embraced their walk with Jesus. Don't give out your invited cards because you feel a responsibility to it. Do it because you have a love and a deep passion for who Jesus is in your life. You know, as we walk through this series, this is about Jesus. And I want to ask you a question. If today was your last day on earth, this was your very absolute last day on earth, would it be about Jesus? If you knew that you knew. And we're going to see through this video series, this gentleman has a heart attack. I'm not going to give too much away. And it changes him. And there's been many of us in this room that have all of a sudden had a serious medical condition. And all of a sudden, I got to start living for Jesus. It's getting serious. It's as serious right now at this moment in your life as it'll ever be. Right here, right now. If God is speaking to your heart, now is the time for you to make that decision. I'm no longer just going to wear the top hand t-shirt. I am no longer just going to put a little window decal on me. And if they want to find Jesus, they can just follow me to church. We have to become a people that proclaim the good news because of the passion that resides within us. Amen? So are you a fan? Are you a follower? We'll know in a couple of weeks. I know a lot of you, I'm a follower, Brother Greg. I love Jesus. I'll follow him anywhere. When's lunch? And we're so easily distracted. So easily distracted. This morning, I want to encourage you to continue to invite others to be a part of what God's doing through the ministry here. In just a moment, we're going to have a precious baby dedication. Jake and Abby, y'all go ahead and go back and bring them in. You know, it's exciting to see the impact that we get to have in so many lives. Over 30 communities here today. So I want to ask you this. Will you commit to pray for yourself over the next several weeks? And just ask yourself, am I a fan? You know, because see, if we get extra credit for being a fan, then there ought to be a lot of us that have extra credit, right? Because we've been going to church every Sunday. Do you know you can't find anywhere in here that says go to church every Sunday? But But it sure does help, doesn't it? Why? Because you're hanging out with other believers. How many of you have hung out with a drunk lately? I didn't know if I needed to focus on this group over here or not. So, hey, what? How many of you know that alcohol has a distinct odor? True? I remember when I was a kid, and that's been a year or two back, I was always the designated driver. Praise God, that's never been an issue in my life. But Mom and Dad always knew where I'd been. I couldn't figure it out. You know why? Because it has a distinct odor. And if you're not used to it, you can smell it. Just like somebody that smokes cigarettes, you can smell them. They can't smell it because it's all over them, right? Unless they're covered up with perfume and cologne all the time. And then you're like, man, please. But here's the thing. People ought to see Jesus by just being around us. Amen? They ought to see it in our speech. They ought to see it in our action. They ought to see it in our love. And they ought to see it in our directness. So this coming week, how can you be a follower of Jesus? I'm going to make it easy for you. Spend time with him. Just spend time. If you don't know how, just say, Lord, I'm tired of Brother Greg talking right at me. So how do I spend time with you? Here I am. I promise you he'll speak to your heart. And then hang out with some other believers. They're a hoot. Man, you'll find out there are people in church more screwed up than you are. They give you something to pray about, right? So I want to pray for you that we're going to have this sweet family come down and we're going to pray over them. And it's always exciting when a family says, we want to dedicate our children to the Lord. Amen? Let's pray together.